Welcome back everyone to Chapter 2X, my Fire Emblem 5 Paragon Mode 0% Girls playthrough, brought to you by your two favorite people in the world, Halvan and Mekkah.
Hi.
So Mekkah, can you explain to me what in Blaze is going on here? Why is the map pitch black?
This is Thrasia's iteration of Fog of War. It's so dense that you actually cannot see anything. You cannot see enemies as usual, but you also cannot see the terrain. And you cannot see the gate that you're supposed to see, so you have no idea where to go. So that's a major pain in the butt. And to make matters worse, it's in almost every guidance chapter in this game, so if you're going to watch a playthrough of this game or play it yourself, prepare to see it a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun to watch than it is to play through. I can sort of excuse Intelligent Systems for this concept of Fog of War because it's your first time implementing it in the series. But imagine that you're a completely new player, you've never played this game before, you just finished chapters 1 and 2 and you had a pretty fun time with those because they were pretty easy and simple. And then the game throws you into this mess where not only can you not see most of the map, but you don't even know where you're supposed to go until the end of turn 2. And the starting point is surrounded by a bunch of terrain that impedes all of your units.
Yeah, the desert sand is really annoying for a lot of units. Our best unit to travel through that sand is Avel, which is why she's leading the charge, and also because she is as strong as ever. Dagdar, for example, is heavily impeded. Finn would also have had trouble crossing the sand if he was just riding his horse, but looks like his horse ran away, didn't it?
Yeah, but it's come back now. So what Finn did was he dismounted. It's a thing that mounted units can do in this game. Basically, they get off their horse, they lose some stats, they lose a lot of movement, and if they don't already use swords while on horseback, then they change to using swords only. So Lance Knights and Axe Knights in this game in particular are impeded by dismounting because they lose the ability to use a primary mounted weapon. So Finn, for example, is no longer able to use his Brave Lance when he's dismounted, and that makes him a lot worse. But fortunately, his horse came back and he's mounted again, so everyone's happy.
Thankfully, Avel is covering for the other units right now, because besides all the shitty pirates and hunters that this chapter contains, there is 2 promoted warriors waiting somewhere in the fog to ambush you, and if Leaf were exposed to them with his amazing 0 AS, then he would probably get doubled and 1 round KO'd by that warrior. So that's why we need to dispose of them in a safe way. Orsin is just chilling all the way at the back because he needs to gain some more experience, just like in chapter 2. He's doing this sometimes with the help of Tanya, who is giving him support bonuses. Support bonuses in this game do not have to be activated through conversations or anything, they just exist between certain units. Tanya in particular gives Orsin and Dagdar support bonuses, so that's pretty helpful. Leaf also gives a lot of unit support bonuses, so that makes him a good unit even though his combat is terrible. All supports in this game, they can be one way and they give hits, avoids, crits and crit avoids, 10 of each. And that's very helpful in this game because hit rates are very shaky, both because weapons are inaccurate and there is a 1 RN system rather than 2. There's no true hit mechanic, so that's why hit rates are very shaky. And of course the avoid and everything else also helps, especially in the long term.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how important supports are in this game. You would never expect it because I don't even think the game instructs a player at any point that there are support bonuses. So unless you read a guide online somewhere, you'd never know they existed. It's not a game like FE13 or FE14 where basically the entire game is designed around having supports, but of all the games prior to those 2 games, I think support bonuses are at the most important in this game. Now something that we're having Orsin do in order to kind of maximize his experience gain is we're not having him equip the Fuji all the time so that he always counterattacks enemies that are ranged. And the reason for this is because, as you may have already noticed, in this game, if you enter combat, even if you do no damage in return, you gain the same amount of experience as if you did some damage in return. And this is pretty unique in this game. It's a little mechanic that we're going to abuse much later on in the playthrough, but the extra bonus experience is actually quite substantial in this case.
Orsin and Halvan are also staying back to find a hidden torch somewhere in the map that's not going to be of any use right now, but it will be useful in a later Fog of War chapter. Avel has to equip the Fire Sword on his bridge, even though most enemies would just die to Iron Blade, because there is another warrior that's pretty tough to kill and has 1-2 range, so she has to waste a lot of Fire Sword uses here, but that's just how it is. The warrior doesn't always get 1-round kill by Avel, sometimes he's left alive, and that's why we need to drop the leaf where we did, so that if Avel fails to 1-round KO him, then he can use his Light Sword to finish him off.
That's also the reason why we had Ronan tagging along with Finn, Leaf, and Avel. Kind of an odd choice because Ronan's combat, as we iterated before, is horrible, but in order to kind of advance Leaf a bit more, such that he'd be able to seize on the next turn, Ronan has to pick him up, and then Finn has to take him and give him to Avel. So this is where Ronan's extra movement comes in handy, and you're going to be seeing that utility come in useful much later on in the playthrough as well.
So in this map, the boss is Leafus, a thief with no weapons equipped, and he's actually recruitable if you capture him and then hold onto him until the end of the chapter. If you don't do that, then he just kind of flees and you'll never see him again. But in order to do that, you need to see him, which is why we need to drop Leaf there to reveal that he's actually there. And close to him is Shiva. Should we just capture him as well?
We should not, because he has a killing edge that is kind of an incentive to capture him, but he's also standing on a fort, which provides the same defensive bonuses in this game as Thrones and Gates, that is plus 10 defense and plus 30 avoid. And because capturing cuts stats in half, it's really kind of a bad idea to capture Shiva. A lot of newer players want to capture Shiva for the killing edge, but it's just much better to let him be. He's recruitable later on, but only if you kind of leave him alone this chapter. You could capture him as long as you don't release him. He also appears later on to be recruited. Lifus is a very important character because he's a thief and you don't get very many of those in this game. And the fact is that this guide chapter could be like skipped if you don't know the requirements. And you could also make a mistake and let go of Lifus, and if you do either of those, you lost yourself one of the most essential characters in the game, and that's kind of like bad design in my opinion. So because of how easy it is for the player to screw himself out of getting Lifus and also getting another essential character that can only be recruited through playing this chapter, I personally believe this chapter should have been mandatory. But we'll put all that behind us. We're going to move on to Chapter 3. That's Chapter 2X completed in 8 turns. See you next time.
See ya.